these terrorists has inflicted to us.
David in Orlando, thanks very much for the call. And speaking of the rescue workers, I saw earlier that the USNS Comfort is in the New York Harbor now. That is the Navy hospital ship, and that'll be a rest area for relief workers. They have about 1,000 beds. They can get a shower, they can get some food, get a little bit of a break there on that Navy hospital ship, the U.S. Comfort. Let's go to our Jody Ross. She is in New York. Let me give you the phone number once again if you're trying to call in, just as a refresher. We gave you it a few minutes ago, but let's do that once again. 1-404-221-1855. Let's go to Jody Ross. She is at the Armory, where teams are trying to help families find their loved ones, and we have seen broken-hearted people for days now. Jody?
It's true, Donna. That doesn't seem to end. And, you know, Friday was a day of prayer and remembrance. And since it's just a little bit after midnight, that feeling still prevails here. People are praying and they're remembering. And one more thing, they're hoping that even as we slowly move into day 4 since the terrorist attacks, that they will find their loved ones. I'm sitting here with Eddie and Anthony, missing a father and father-in-law respectively, right? Tell me the last time you saw Anthony.
Tuesday.
He worked in the World Trade Center.
Worked at World Trade Center, Building 2 on 101st floor. And we heard from him about 5 to 9, and then at 9 o'clock he called like 3 times. He witnessed what took place in Building 1. While my mother-in-law was on the phone with him, she said, please, Tony, you know, leave the building, get out of there, you know. And he was like, Jerry, it's okay. The people are jumping out of the windows. He was crying hysterically. He's like, I'm okay, I'm okay. She begged him to leave, but knowing him, he probably stuck around. Someone could have fell, someone could have panicked. He's the kind of guy that would help anybody.
Right, he would have stayed to help.
He would have definitely stayed to help, but then I'm sure that once they got out of there, you know, he would have got down. He had enough time. We're hoping he made it down to the basement.
Anthony, you mentioned, too, that he was there in 1993 for the first bombing on the World Trade Center, right?
Yeah, me and my father was there in 93, and we both survived it. And called my mother to let her know that we were all right. And we're just helping out, volunteers, Red Cross, everything.
Are you shocked now, though, that you're back in this situation where, again, it's the World Trade Center and you can't locate him?
It's very shocking. I just hopefully he did get out. Back then in '93, it was tough, and we never thought that this would happen again, at all.
Anthony, I asked you before if you were losing hope because, you know, we're many days now past the day of the attacks, but you don't seem to be losing any.
We can't lose hope. You run out of tears, you cry 1 minute, the next minute you hear a good story that brings your hope up a little bit. And knowing that my brother-in-law and my father-in-law know that building well, there's a very good chance that they're down there. We've checked every number there is to check. The Armory, just now, half hour ago, whatever it was, we've been to every hospital. We've called every number dozens of times. We had 6 phones going at the same time for a good 15 hours straight. We've done everything and some. And, I mean, you can never do enough, but we're not giving up.
You still believe?
We believe.
You guys, good luck. Thank you for talking to us. We appreciate it. What are the chances of finding these people? Who knows? What's the ratio of actually finding them? Who knows? But these people don't care. They're praying and they believe in miracles, and they're hoping that in the next few days they'll see one. Donna, back to you.
Jody Ross there in New York at the Armory. Thanks very much. And sometimes that's all they can cling to is the hope and the prayers and hoping for a miracle. Let me give you that number I was talking about earlier. It's the U.S. Commission on Civil Rights from one of our former callers just a couple of minutes ago. It's for Arab and Muslim Americans to report threats and vandalism and attacks, and it's a hotline for filing complaints. You see it there on your screen, and I'll read it to you as well if you're just listening. 800-552-6843. Once again, it's 800-552-6843. I had it in my notes but had to find it for you. Our next caller, Natasha from Wisconsin. Go ahead, please.
Yes, ma'am. I'm just calling to sort of make a plea and to ask that now is a time for the American people to stand together, which I think a lot of us do realize. However, in some of the cities that I live around, there are just people making nonsense bomb threats to area malls, and you know, the world, we're under enough scare right now. We don't need all the extra nonsense to be carried forth from this point. And it's a time for all of us, in spite of race, nationality, color, religion, it's a time for us to all pull together and stand together and support the United States of America as those that are doing such a tremendous job in New York and in Washington are doing for us.
All right, Natasha from Wisconsin, thanks very much. And Linda from Illinois, you're next on the air with us tonight. Go ahead, please. Linda, are you there?
Yes.
Go right ahead, please.
Yes, I am. I just wanted to tell everyone in New York and Washington how terrible and how upset we are that this has happened to them. We're not that far from Chicago, and I was born and raised in Chicago, and I know how that would feel if I was up there. And we still have a lot of family up there. But I wanted to let the president and all these people know that we are behind them. And I also wanted to tell them that I'm a grandmother, and I'm going to be a grandmother in a week and a half with my 4th grandchild. And I just want the president to know to please let this be taken care of, because I want to live and I want my grandchildren to live in a country that has always been so wonderful and so free.
Linda from Illinois, thanks very much for your call. Let's go to Gary Tuckman. As we've been telling you, Gary Tuckman was able to get into Ground Zero. He has seen it from a perspective that few of us have, and how shocking it is. Gary, what have you seen, and what are you doing tonight?
Well, Donna, the first thing that I still just can't get over is the fact that the World Trade Center complex is not standing 110 stories behind me. I mean, it's an incredible landmark of New York City. Any of you who have been here have seen it, and any of you who haven't been here have also seen it on television and on postcards and in magazines. And you would come down this street that I'm standing on right now, Greenwich Street, and you would see those towers there, and you would just got very used to it, and just incredible that it isn't there. I mean, when this week began, those 2 towers towered over New York City, and everyone was having a good time in the city, relatively innocent, and all of a sudden this city has completely changed. Now, on Wednesday, the day after this happened, a paramedic took me to Ground Zero. She wanted me to see it. She didn't feel that people throughout the world really knew how bad the damage was. And you know what? She was absolutely right, because despite the fact that I had been here the day before reporting from 4 blocks away, until you get there, you can't imagine what it looks like. The rubble looks like a mountain range, and the mountain range at some points is 75 feet tall, and it still is, despite the fact that they've taken 10,000 tons of the rubble to a landfill nearby. And that I found completely incredible. What I also found incredible was about a 10 block by 10 block range, you have damage all over the place. You have debris, you have rubble, you have at least 150 or 200 businesses that have been destroyed or damaged. And right now officials are telling us that they estimate that about 20% of the buildings here in Lower Manhattan are damaged. The final thing I want to tell you, what really struck me and what will stick with me forever, there was a Brooks Brothers store right across from the World Trade Center that is now being used as the temporary morgue. And we went in there and saw it. Donna, back to you.
Hey, Gary, tell us a little bit more, if you know some more information this evening, about some of the other surrounding buildings, because there was worry about those collapsing or being structurally damaged, and so that could be a problem as well, too. What do we know about that tonight?
The emergency officials are very concerned about those other buildings. There are 3 buildings that are said to have some structural deficiencies, and officials said they were possibly in danger of collapse. But today, the mayor of New York City, Rudy Giuliani, stressed that they are not in danger of imminent collapse, and people should not be overly concerned about those buildings at this time. So that's the word from the mayor.
How about food and water there for the volunteers and the folks who are getting so tired, and then who we read about who are working without gloves and have bloody hands, and who are in there just doing the best they can until they can't take it anymore? When we read about some of those rescue workers who have to just sit down and they're collapsed emotionally and physically.
I think right now, as the days have gone by, the emotional problems are bigger, because people are realizing for the last 2 days they have not found one survivor. That is very disappointing. But in the last couple of days, physically, it's gotten easier. More equipment has come, more material has come, people have their gloves, people are wearing masks, but you really need, when I'm not talking to you on the air, I'm wearing the mask because it's very smelly here from the smoke. And you can see right now, that smoke has been like that since this began 3.5 days ago. So when you're this close, you really need to wear those masks most of the time. And especially when you're at Ground Zero, you really have to wear the mask. And pretty much all the people on the site now are wearing those masks.
And some of those particles, too. Gary Tuckman there at the scene. Thanks very much for bringing us up to date, and we'll be checking back in with you, I'm sure. As we carry on, our next caller is Charles from Mississippi. Hi, Charles.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Hope you're the same. Tell us what you're thinking.
Well, I'm thinking our prayers are really going out with the people that are out there working. This is for everybody in Mississippi, where we're having big blood donations, and we're sending a lot of equipment up there to New York to help them. And also, our prayers go out to all the victims, families, and all their children that we know they will be missed. And also to our president, who we love, that has done such a good job of trying to pull this nation together, which I think it's been pulled together pretty good, because I've never seen so many flags and "In God We Trust" all over the signs here in Mississippi.
Can you get a flag, Charles? It's tough to find a flag here in Atlanta, I'll tell you that. We saw some numbers from Walmart and Kmart earlier today that 300,000 and 200,000 flags have been sold. I had to settle for a balloon because I had actually had a damaged flag before, and of course you don't want to fly a damaged flag if you can help it. And so I was trying to find a new one, and I'm telling you, tough to find one.
Yes, it's tough to find the flags, and now the flower shops here have gone out and made red, white, and blue ribbons for people to wear, and you give a $1 donation, and they're sending it to New York to the people that need it.
Yeah, and I got a flag balloon. If you can just find something red, white, and blue to fly then.
But I'd like to say to President Bush that we love him. We think that he is really, him and the mayor of New York has done such a good job, and the governor and the people in Washington has done such a good job. We know that this will be handled in a way that it will not hurt us Americans, and that I have seen that.
What do you think that would be, Charles, though, handled in a way that would not hurt America? How would that be?
I believe that the president's going to go in there and bring them out and bring them back to America for justice.
All right. We thank you for your call. Thank you for your call. Robin in Texas, would you go ahead, please?
Yes, I have written a poem for all the rescue workers there in New York and Washington.
Go right ahead.
It's called "For Those Who Serve." We can't begin to imagine the brotherhood that exists between those who serve us when disasters strike and resist. We are usually caught unaware, though they all rush in to assist, when common sense usually tells us to retreat, give up, and to quit. They don't think of themselves as heroes. They are only doing their job. Though no one could convince me, they are not guided by the hand of God.
As you watch the rescuers, you were obviously moved, Robin, to write that, and that's lovely. So many people have been moved. Is there something that you felt, so many people have been moved to try and do something, and you've written a poem? What about some of your neighbors? I talked to some of my neighbors, and they were having trouble sleeping, waking up, and everybody was so shocked and shook up about it. How about you?
Well, I've had trouble sleeping myself. It's everyone I know has been saying prayers. Either if they haven't, well, they've all been praying. And unfortunately, I'm unable to give blood. I have friends who are unable to give blood through various illnesses and so forth. But we are all doing whatever we can in whatever way, whether it be praying, giving blood, just hoping for the best that survivors are found and are totally behind everything that's going on right now.
Robin from Texas, thank you for sharing what you wrote with us. We really appreciate it. Ron in California, you are next on the air with us. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm calling because I'm very thankful for the services that they had today, and I was deeply moved by Reverend Graham's words, and more importantly, how this has awakened America's renewal for spiritual necessity to draw unto God, to pray unto God, regardless of your faith, but to really have a faith and believe in something, and that love is the foundation for a family and relationship, and how we relate to what is happening today in our world has brought a lot of fear and terror being that is evil. The ultimate evil has caused us to really think about life and what it is, and who we are related to, and how much we love them, and what we want to do with our love for those people. But I really think about what Dr. Graham said, it struck me that only God could have loved these people more that we have lost through this terror, through this evil act, but only God that took their lives through this terror could only have loved them more. That through this, that the United States of America, that the world, the civilization across the world who has heard these words would really listen to what the Talmud is saying, that is proclaiming a holy war. And I agree, it is a holy war, because we will come together, we will unite with our prayers, not just today, but every day and throughout, as we lead our troops into war, as we pray for those brave souls that are out there rescuing